Think a police station is the safest place on Earth? Think again. Today we're diving into the glitches where secure rooms became literal kill zones. We've got the receipts on suspects who caught the law slipping while in handcuffs, from hidden straps in college dorms to a courthouse massacre that had the world shook. You gotta stay glued to the screen for this full breakdown, because the finale involves a hostage, a miracle surrender, and a best-selling book that sounds straight out of Hollywood. Let's get into the disturbing truth, no cap. Let's take it back to 2005 in Providence, Rhode Island. The energy was heavy because police were hunting for the person who brutally stabbed an 80-year-old woman, Madeline Gattata, just for her handbag. They picked up a guy named Esteban Carpio, a suspect who was tweaking and looking completely out of pocket. He was brought into the detective bureau for questioning, and on the surface, it looked like a standard wrap-up. But inside that room was Detective Sergeant James L. Allen, a 27-year veteran who had seen it all. Allen was a legend, but he didn't realize he was sitting across from a ticking time bomb. Carpio wasn't just a regular suspect. He was someone with a loose screw who was ready to crash out rather than go back to a cell. But wait until you hear how this veteran detective was caught off guard by a move that shouldn't have been possible in a secure room. Inside that third-floor interview room, the system glitched in the worst way. While Allen was trying to get the full receipts on the stabbing, a struggle erupted. Carpio, who wasn't fully restrained, managed to finesse the situation and get his hands on Allen's service weapon. This is the ultimate nightmare for any detective, being trapped in a small, locked room with a suspect who now has your own strap. Carpio didn't hesitate. He opened fire, hitting Allen and ending the veteran's life right there in the heart of the police station. The sound of the shots echoed through the bureau, sending every officer into a blind panic. But it's what Carpio did after the shooting to try and escape that still has people shook 20 years later. After shooting Detective Allen, Carpio realized the ops were closing in. The detective bureau was swarming with officers who heard the shots. With nowhere to run, Carpio decided to yeet himself out of a third-story window. He literally smashed through the glass and plummeted to the pavement below. Most people would be unconscious or dead after a fall like that, but Carpio was on that adrenaline high. He hit the ground and tried to bolt, but the police were already on him. But the real controversy started when he finally showed up in court, looking like a literal monster. The footage of Carpio in court became legendary because he showed up with a mangled face, swollen eyes, bruises, and a mask, leading his family to claim the police did him dirty in the back of the precinct. They were shouting that it was police brutality, but the disturbing truth was that his injuries came from that death-defying jump and the struggle to subdue him. He was eventually sentenced to life, but this case changed how detectives handle one-on-one interviews forever. However, if you think a third-story jump is wild, wait until you see the concealed weapon glitch that happened at a university police station in Texas. Number 2. Hollis Daniels III. Fast forward to 2017 in Lubbock, Texas. This case is a masterclass in why a thorough search is the most important part of an arrest. It started at Texas Tech University, where campus police went to check on a student named Hollis Daniels III. Daniels was a 19-year-old kid who looked like any other college bro, but he was moving weight, at least enough drugs to get the cops called. Officer Floyd East Jr. was the one who made the bust. He found the stash in Daniels' room and took him into custody. It seemed like a routine drug arrest, the kind of easy win officers do every day. But Daniels was hiding a secret that was about to turn this standard booking into a national headline. When they brought Daniels into the station, they missed one crucial detail. He had a stolen .45 caliber pistol on him. Somewhere in the chaos of the arrest, the search wasn't detailed enough. While Officer East was sitting at his desk, grinding through the paperwork with his back turned, Daniels saw his window. He wasn't even in a cell yet. In a move that was pure evil, Daniels pulled the hidden strap and shot Officer East in the back of the head. East never saw it coming. But the terror didn't stop there. Daniels then snatched something from the officer's body that caused a campus-wide panic. Daniels didn't just run, he snatched the officer's body cam to try and hide the evidence and bolted from the station. This triggered a campus-wide lockdown that had thousands of students shook and hiding in their dorms. For the next few hours, Lubbock was a ghost town as a massive manhunt went into effect. Every law enforcement agency in the area was out looking for this 19-year-old cop killer. The fear was that he was still armed and had nothing to lose. But the way they finally caught him proves that even the most vicious suspects eventually run out of luck. Daniels was eventually spotted near the university's parking garage. When the cops closed in, he didn't put up a fight this time. He gave up and was taken back into custody. Later, he admitted everything, saying he messed up and was scared of going to jail. He eventually took a plea deal for life in prison to avoid the death penalty. But the legacy of Officer East Jr. remains a reminder that complacency can be fatal. But speaking of kindness being used against an officer, you won't believe the smoke break trap that happened in Kentucky.
Number 3. Gary Rowland.
In 2022, a case out of Western Kentucky showed that even a moment of kindness can be weaponized by a suspect. Chief Deputy Jody Cash was a legend in the area, a 22-year veteran who had worked everything from local patrol to DEA task forces. Deputy were questioning a guy named Gary Rowland outside the sheriff's office. Rowland was a parolee who was being detained for a mental health evaluation. He seemed calm, so the officers allowed him to have a smoke break before being processed. This was an attempt to de-escalate, but Rowland was faking the compliance the whole time. While he was standing there smoking, Rowland pulled his piece and opened fire without a single warning. He shot Chief Deputy Cash at point-blank range. The chaos was instant. The other deputies on the scene didn't freeze. They immediately returned fire, turning the parking lot into a firing range. Rowland was hit and dropped on the spot, but the damage was already done. Chief Deputy Cash, a mother and a pillar of her community, was gone. This case rocked the law enforcement world because it happened outside the station.
Number 4. Jeremy Powell.
In Jackson, Mississippi, a routine homicide interview turned into a life-or-death struggle. Detective Eric Tyrone Smith was a heavy hitter who was questioning 23-year-old Jeremy Powell about a slaying. There was another female detective in the room, making it a 2-on-1 situation, but Powell wasn't intimidated. When the female detective's attention was diverted, Powell snapped. He didn't have a gun. He decided to take one. He lunged at Detective Smith, starting a vicious wrestling match for the officer's service weapon. The brawl was intense. Powell managed to overpower the veteran detective and snatch his gun. The female detective tried to intervene, but her own weapon jammed in the heat of the moment, a literal hardware glitch that had fatal consequences. Powell fired multiple shots, executing Detective Smith inside the room. Powell then turned the gun on himself, ending his own life before he could be rearrested. But if you think an interview room is dangerous, wait until we look at the big one, the Atlanta courthouse massacre that turned a city into a war zone.
Number 5. Brian Nichols.
Now we get to the final boss of custody escapes, the 2005 Brian Nichols case. This is the most high-profile escape in modern history. Brian Nichols was a big dude, a former football player who was on trial for rape. He knew he was looking at life, so he decided to break the system entirely. It started in the holding cell of the Fulton County Courthouse. Deputy Cynthia Hall was assigned to escort him. She was a veteran, but Nichols was massive. He ambushed her, beating her so badly she suffered permanent brain damage, snatched her keys and gun, and the rampage began. Nichols didn't flee immediately. He went on a mission. He stormed into courtroom 8G where his trial was supposed to happen. He shot and killed Judge Roland Barnes and court reporter Julianne Brandau in cold blood. The security in the courthouse was lacking, and the confusion was peak. Officers were running toward the shots, but Nichols was moving tactical. He made it outside, where he killed Sheriff Sergeant Hoyt Teasley before jacking a car and ghosting from the scene. The entire city of Atlanta went into emergency mode, but Nichols wasn't done yet. While the police were swarming the streets, Nichols was hiding in plain sight. He managed to finesse his way into the home of a federal customs agent named David G. Wilhelm. Nichols murdered the agent, stole his truck, his badge, and his weaponry. This made him exponentially more dangerous because he now had federal gear and could pass as an officer. The manhunt was now national news, but the way he was eventually stopped didn't involve a single bullet, and you won't believe the secret weapon a young mother used to survive. Nichols was holed up in a Duluth apartment complex and took a hostage named Ashley Smith. For hours, he held her captive. He was wired on drugs and adrenaline. But Smith did something unexpected. Instead of panicking, she started talking to him. She read him passages from the book The Purpose-Driven Life. She humanized him, de-escalating the monster who had just killed 4 people. This is where the disturbing truth gets a miraculous twist. Smith's emotional intelligence did what a SWAT team couldn't. She convinced him to surrender. Nichols eventually let her go and walked out with his hands up. It was a miraculous end to a bloody day. Nichols was eventually sentenced to multiple life terms, and the courthouse had to completely overhaul their security. Looking back, the common thread is the failed search. In the cases of Hollis Daniels and Gary Rowland, the system relied on human thoroughness, and humans glitched. These monsters wait for that 1 second when the officer thinks the threat is gone. The disturbing truth is that a suspect is never fully secured until they are in a cell and stripped down. At the end of the day, no perimeter is 100% unbreakable. Whether it's an interrogation room or a courthouse, the safety of the system is only as strong as the people running it. You've seen the receipts of what happens when the ball is dropped. The monsters are always watching for that 1 second of complacency. What do you think? Is it human error or just unavoidable tragedy? Drop your hot take in the comments and let us know which case shook you the most. Make sure you smash that sub button for the disturbing truth, because we're tracking the most unhinged cases in history. Stay alert and stay safe. Peace.